Hi, I'm Corey.
And I'm Bill.
And welcome to the In Focus podcast. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Bill Cornelius, Emmy-nominated director and cinematographer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on this show that I'm co-hosting.
It's so great that you're here, and I'm glad you mentioned that. The purpose of this first episode is to let the listeners get to know a little bit more about you, about myself. We'll probably do a similar interview with me in the coming weeks, but I thought it would be good to let everybody know, like, who the host is, who the hosts are.
Who are these people?
Yeah.
Why should I listen? Well, one, because it's awesome, and we're awesome.
That's true.
But we're going to tell you why we're awesome.
Yes. I think the intent behind the In Focus podcast, too, I think will be important. Like, it'll come up through the interview as well, but this is definitely not just another quarantine podcast, right?
No, this is something we've been talking about pre-COVID.
Yeah. And, we both had great ideas, but maybe not really the drive to pull it all together all at once.
And for me, it was like, I've wanted a good podcast I can listen to, and I can't find anything. So I thought, maybe I'll just make what I want to listen to. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And I think this will be a great opportunity too for us to talk to other creatives like ourselves, directors, cinematographers. There are a lot of great people just around town locally before we even think about like a broader audience, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into a little about you, Bill. How about it?
I'm ready. What do we want to know about me?
Bill, let's start with maybe, what's your earliest filmmaking memory?
My earliest filmmaking memory. So I've been interested in film since I was 8 years old. And this was, not to age myself, this was during the VHS days. So
Really?
It came down to borrowing the family VHS, video camera, which was this enormous Philco. It was called a movie camera. It was for filming Christmas.
Sounds very legit.
Yeah, very legit. Well, I thought so when I was 8. So that was my earliest memory, and I've had the bug ever since.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just fun.
With your movie camera,
Yes.
Do you remember the first thing you ever shot?
I don't remember the very first thing. Before the video camera, I had a tape recorder, and I used to do little audio stories, and I'd make my own sound effects.
So you were a podcaster before podcasts were even a thing.
Yes, I was at 5. And so, it was just kind of a natural progression. It's this need for storytelling. And there was something about video, the visual medium, and to be able I would film everything in my bedroom. And so I would just dress my bedroom to be a cave or a tavern or a office, just in the rudimentary way that I could when I was a child. And I'd have my friends come over, and I would subject them to being part of this venture I was exploring, and I would assign them their role. I'd be like, hey, so Ryan, you're playing a thief today, and he's like, oh, but I don't want to play the thief. I want to do something else. I want to play video games. Well, we'll do that after we shoot this scene where you're the thief.
Unpaid extras
yes.
at an early age.
So it was, a lot of stuff like that. And of course, my sister was always the token female. It was like, hi, can you play Princess Zelda in this Legend of Zelda thing I'm doing? Okay. And she was like 5. So,
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. So at the age of 8, already into the creative process. And we know we haven't talked about it yet on the podcast, but you did eventually end up in film school, right?
I did.
So when did you know film school was going to be that path for you?
I know early on when I was a kid, I didn't know film school was a thing. Yeah. I didn't think it existed. I used to watch, what was it called? Movie Magic that was on like the Discovery Channel or something when I was a kid. And just like that was the only way you could consume behind the scenes stuff back then, because that was pre-DVD special features and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Side note, like definitely the one thing I miss about physical content is the behind the scenes features.
Oh yeah. And I still like the commentary and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
So when I got into high school, it was all like MTV used to do making the video, where they would
love those.
Yeah, and it was just this behind the scenes look of this music video being made and then the final product. And I ate that stuff up. And so probably middle school or high school is when I first started learning that film school existed, and it wasn't just in LA, which obviously, right?
All
And
right.
so, then I was like, absolutely, I'm going to apply to film school wherever I can find it and see what happens, because I didn't want to waste any time in college not focusing on the thing I want to focus on.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Now, when I think about film school, in my mind, I see like classrooms full of kids just studying like more fine arts and the history of film as an art form rather than like practical application where like today you could learn how to do so many things on YouTube or, other avenues. So like, is that accurate, or like, am I way off base there?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty accurate, because I did get a Bachelor of Fine Arts. So in order to do that, you have to meet certain requirements, and that is more, a lot of classroom-based stuff. I had to take some fine arts classes, which fortunately I've been drawing since I was 2 years old, so it was like I had a little bit of a foundation in visual art. I had to do a lot of that. I had to do a lot of film history class. I had to watch a lot of stuff that I was not into and critique it, and a lot of cynicism and pretentiousness and stuff that, quite honestly, looking back, I get it from a bachelor's degree standpoint, but that's not where I actually learned the knowledge that I needed. That then came on student shoots where we would actually do the thing. We would be hands-on with the cameras and the lighting and delegating with crew positions and that sort of thing. That's when we really got in, and we could really be allowed to screw up and have little successes here and there and work with each other.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, so like the number of films that you create when you're in film school, student films, like is that like one a semester, one a year? What is that?
It was, I'm trying to think because it's been a long time. It was initially, I think it wasn't until my second semester that I actually made a film. So that first semester was kind of this build up to making a film where we just had to take these different types of production classes and screenwriting and that sort of thing. It's all the stuff that, a lot of people in the industry kind of make fun of film school. They think it's a waste of time, this and that. And I get where they're coming from, but I also disagree because it did allow me to make some mistakes on set that would probably not fly in the real world. So, there was a lot of that when I finally did get to doing the student shoots, which was, I think, once a semester, if I recall correctly.
Okay. But I mean, you guys would take that from like pre-production, like writing the screenplay all the way through to post-production, right?
Yeah. And that was extremely valuable because that's not something you can learn showing up as a PA, knowing absolutely nothing. You're not going to learn the entire process from beginning to end.
Yeah. So if nothing else, like not that I'm a film school hater or would discredit the investment by any means, but would you say the practical application time that you spent was more valuable to you than the classroom style?
Absolutely. Yeah, without question. And again, it was a lot of making mistakes. And it allows you to make mistakes. Yeah. Because you're not being paid. You're not a professional. It's a sandbox, so to speak, where you're safe to accidentally not feed your crew and different things that you would definitely catch flack for in the professional world, and word would get out. Yeah. And so it let me learn the hard way in a lot of ways, what to do, what not to do, and I had the freedom to do that without being blackballed by the professional world. Right. It was just students gossiping about me.
Yeah. And is there a final big project that's a part of like you have to produce this one final film as part of like a graduation?
Like a thesis
Yeah,
film?
similar to that.
Yes. So it was called the Production 4. I went to the Watkins Film School, by the way. Rest in peace. May it rest in peace. Belmont owns it now. We had a Production 4 film, which was like our senior film, our thesis film, final semester. Everything led to this kind of thing. Apply all the knowledge over the last 4 years. And I made one called Lavorcia that was that actually went on to win some stuff at festivals beyond film school.
I remember that one.
Yeah. I think you did see that one. And so that was, I'm still pretty proud of that film. It doesn't hold up like it used to. It's looking its age more and more every day. That was in 2005. So that was back when the DVX 100 had first come out, Panasonic. So 24p was like the big thing that everybody was raving about.
That was the hotness.
Oh, yeah.
At the time.
24p, and oh my gosh, it looks like cinema. You know, we look at this now and it's like, yeah, it looks like simulated, whatever you want to call it. Nobody shoots on that anymore, but at the time it was great, and it does not hold up these days.
Yeah, that's okay. So this thesis project or this Production 4, does every student that's in the class, everyone is like a director for their own, or everyone works on the same project and you're assigned different roles? How does that work?
I think, again, it's been a while, but I think by the time we reached Production 4, we concentrated more on our focus. My focus was directing, but there were some people in class, their focus was cinematography, screenwriting, editing, that sort of thing. My focus was directing, but I had the kind of luxury to write my own script. They didn't want me to, the film faculty, but I did it anyway because whatever. I didn't listen well.
So what would be the other option then if you didn't write your own screenplay that you were going to direct?
I would have somebody else write it, somebody whose focus was screenwriting.
Oh, okay.
And which the faculty encouraged me to do, much to my displeasure. And I remember pushing back on them, and I was like, no, I'm going to write my own film. You leave me alone, you get off my back. And I remember my film instructor came to me in like a one-on-one setting and was like, Bill, we're going to let you write it, but make sure it's good, okay?
Typical director.
So my attitude is if somebody doesn't think I'm going to do a thing right or do it well, it becomes my mission then to show them up. And so that is exactly what I did. And I succeeded.
Nice. That's awesome.
So I felt pretty good about walking away from film school with my sunglasses on in slow motion after that.
Was there an explosion behind you as well?
Yes.
Perfect. Cinematography gold.
Yeah.
All right. So fast forward to today. You run Hallengard Pictures. Tell us a little bit about what that entails.
So that's my independent production company. Do a lot of different work around town, a lot of music videos, a lot of stuff in the advertising world, such as commercials, and also working on short films. I had a feature-length documentary called Hear Me Now about bullying that got distribution back in 2017, and it's on Prime Video now, Amazon Prime. Go check it out.
Nice. We'll link to that in the show notes. So tell us a little more about that Hear Me Now, what inspired that and then what led up to the initial production.
I'm not what you would say a documentarian. That's not really my focus. I like to make shit up, as I tell people. My thing was always, if I am going to do a documentary, it's going to be about bullying, because that is something that I went through when I was in middle school. I had moved from Kentucky to the Chicago area, and so I had an accent, and you can imagine where things went from there. So that was always kind of the one documentary I was going to do, and so I embarked on that in 2011. It was a very long process. I learned a lot of things, such as patience and probably that it's not a good idea to self-fund a film, especially when it goes on for a number of years.
Right.
So we wrapped in 2015, and then post-production was almost another year. And then we released it at the Bell Court in Nashville.
Oh, cool.
And then we awesomely got like 4 distribution offers, just kind of
That's so cool.
one after another. And, we, of course, picked the one that raked us over the coals less, because that's what you do in the distribution world. Remember that, kids. Distribution is about deciding how much you want to sign away.
I mean, there's definitely benefits to a distribution deal.
Yeah, definitely benefits, but you also have to be very careful.
Yeah.
And we actually signed with a great distributor, and we were very fortunate in that way.
Yeah, that's great. And so other than the documentary, obviously you mentioned you've done a lot of work around town on music videos. I know you've done a lot of commercial work.
Yeah.
Maybe music videos. Is there any artist in particular that comes to mind that's just like been so great to work with?
I would say I've been pretty lucky. There was one band, they're no longer together, called The Opposed, that I first worked with in 2007, I think. Or no, 2009. It's a blur. My career is a blur at this point.
Yeah.
But they were just so easygoing, easy to work with, liked the music personally, because sometimes you don't like music so much that you're doing the video for. So it was easier for me to come up with ideas, because I actually enjoyed listening to their music on my own time.
Yeah.
And I did, I think, 3 or 4 videos for them. What was kind of left of their band did an original song for Hear Me Now, actually. That's in the end credits and on Spotify and that sort of thing, called Hear Me Now.
Nice.
But yeah, I've had the good fortune of working with some pretty great artists. I know the noteworthy one is Billy Bob Thornton and his band, the Boxmasters.
Really?
Back in 2015, we did a video with him and Mark Colley. That was a great experience. Just working with an A-list Academy Award-winning actor in his band. He couldn't be nicer. Just the nicest dude ever. He did come up and quiz me on how I was going to light a scene at one point, and I just remember being like, there has been no point in my career or in film school when I have been put on the spot like this. And I just like immediately was like, well, Billy, I'm going to put some lights up here, and we're going to have it angle down this way where we get a little bit of shadow from the blinds, and then it's going to have a nice little spill over the seats in the auditorium. And then I paused, and he just goes, great. And then he just walked away and had a cigarette. And so there it was.
That sounds like a seal of approval.
Yes. So no pressure.
All right, that's great. Along with running Howland Guard Pictures, you also run a corporate studio producing video content. What's that like?
Yeah, so my day job is creating video content for the healthcare industry. And so I actually run a small studio where all of that stuff is created, and it's a lot of there's a lot of travel involved sometimes, pre-corona and hopefully post-corona as well. And a lot of teleprompter work. I'd say the biggest challenge with that type of video content is I work with a lot of people that are healthcare professionals. They're not like hosts or actors or anything like that. How can I get the best performance out of somebody in a suit and tie who's not normally in front of the camera?
Yeah.
And so that I'd say that's kind of how I flex that directing muscle, is like keeping them relaxed, coaching them, getting the best read I can get out of these people.
In that world, do you also get the opportunity to flex the creative muscle, or is it really just like clean cut, 3-point lighting, super boring interview type stuff?
It depends. It depends on the project. I've been lucky that the company that I work with has been open to a lot of wilder ideas.
Like what? Like what?
Like maybe an MTV Cribs parody.
Nice.
So it's one of those luxuries where you're not told no very often.
Yeah.
And there's a snowball effect to that. because then you come up with even more crazy ideas, and you're like, well, what if we did this weird science 80s thing to talk about MPS scores and the most dry stuff you can imagine, like corporate dry. We've all had jobs where we had to watch the training videos for that come down from corporate, and they're always very bland and boring. And I was like, I am going to change that. I'm going to change the narrative on that. And so I kind of went in, and of course they've been a big hit. And, it's corporate content that people actually want to watch, which is rare.
Yeah, that's so great.
So that's what we do in that studio.
And it's great that like you're able to your point, continue to keep that muscle sharp, I guess. I know how much you love Zoom videos and like virtual production.
Yeah, I will. I will say about COVID, obviously I've not been able to work on set a lot, if at all, like many of us. But the good news is I have been able to direct via Zoom, which is very unnatural for me. I'm the kind of person that, like, I'm up and moving about when I direct. You can give me a director's chair, but no one will be sitting in it. Like, I'm on my feet. I like to be up in it.
Yep.
In the action, I will act out full scenes just because I just like get real into the vision. And so when I have to do this remotely from my house in front of a laptop, it is like having your hands tied and being blindfolded and directing. Yeah. And it was very unnatural for me for a lot of 2020. It was just kind of stumbling through where I'm essentially directing people that are also at home, people that are not professionals, people that it's like, can you please adjust your lamp so your face is lit a little better? And, it's again, it kind of goes back to directing people in the healthcare industry that aren't used to performing.
Right.
It's flexing that muscle. It's challenging me as a director to work outside my comfort zone and push a little harder to get what I need to get. It's been a good challenge, I would say. I will be happy to be on set again when it happens again. And
there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I hear. Like, you'll be back in the studio part-time here very soon, right?
Very soon, yeah. Looking very forward to dusting the cobwebs off of all of the gear in the studio.
Nice. All right. What advice would you give someone that wants to pursue a career similar to yours?
Make sure you really want it. Like, really, really want it. Because it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. And not everybody can do it. And you have to, in a sense, be a glutton for punishment. I speak to film students every now and then, and this is always what I tell them. I'm just like, you have to really want it. Because it is not easy.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to give you a handout in this industry. You're going to run into a lot of rejection and a lot of stuff you don't like. And you're going to have to do some freebies to put some stuff on your resume, and maybe some paycheck gigs that you don't tell anybody about. But that's just the reality of it. And you have to be ready to deal with it and charge into it head on. And there'll be a lot of disheartening moments, but if you really want it, if you're hungry for it, you'll make it if you just push on.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that is interesting in what you've kind of figured out is this balance between both your own production company and a like typical Monday through Friday gig that kind of coincide together creatively, at least.
It's almost like agency work. Essentially it is. And it's possible to do both. Freelance, living on freelance alone is a tough road. Going back to how challenging things can be, freelance work is a lot like the weather. Sometimes you'll get it constantly to the point where you're turning stuff down, and sometimes you will go months without something. If that's all you're living on, that's a very unpredictable way to live. And so I did that for a few years, and I decided I wanted money, like more steady money, I should say, and health insurance. I was very fortunate to get this gig where I'm running this studio, and yes, it's probably not the most sexy work all the time, but I'm doing video work, and I'm getting paid regularly to do it, and it's a good gig, and it's something that exists out there more and more. If you just go on LinkedIn, you'll see just video producers and editors and things that just regular companies are looking for more and more, because as content's moving more digital to social media and things like that, people are looking for big companies looking for video content creation, and they're looking for people like you who have the skills to edit or have the skills to shoot or whatever it might be. There's no shame in taking those gigs, because you're going to have a roof over your head.
Right.
And you're still going to be able to do the quote unquote sexy work, because I still can. Yeah. And it's a good place to be in, and it is possible. You just have to look and work for it.
Yeah, that's great. Let's get vulnerable for a minute. What's been your biggest failure as a director?
Every other film I made when I was in my 20s. I tried to do a lot of shorts in my 20s because that was the time that I called the struggle.
The struggle.
That's something they don't quite prepare you for in film school, or really anywhere, is that this is not an easy business to break into.
Yeah.
And it was especially hard back when I first got out of college, because Nashville was not the Nashville it currently is. It was still kind of pre-growth explosion. Yeah. So there wasn't quite as much work as there is now. There just wasn't anything happening. I tried to do my own work because you got to feed the addiction. You know, my addiction is shooting things. So what do? I get really impatient, and I go after and try to make these little short films with the little to no money that I have in my pocket at the time.
Yeah.
From working retail and call centers and that sort of thing, and cobble together these kind of half-assed, cutting corners little short films that I did a few of in my 20s. And you know what? They're not that great. They're really not. And I mean, it's a testament to how patience is a virtue, and you don't cut corners, and you try to get a budget together so you can get the resources you need to execute it properly. But I had to feed the need to shoot. I had to feed that need, and I had to flex that creative muscle at the time.
And I think that's important too. Like, even whether it's for paid projects or unpaid projects, like just getting out and just shooting, just creating something, to your point, like keeps that muscle fresh, keeps the creativity like constantly evolving, and keeps you sharp for sure.
And even if it's not good, and you know, it's true. And at the time, I would be embarrassed, and I'd be like, you know what, this didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. And I would be in denial about it, because I had kind of an ego in my 20s, and I was like, I'm really good at this. I've been doing it since I was 8. Nobody's going to know I'm making a crappy short film.
Yeah.
But I was, because I was scratching that itch.
Right.
That's all it was just an exercise in doing. And the older I get, the more I'm like, you know, that's important. We need to do that too. It keeps us sharp. Like you said, it's practice. It doesn't have to be, you know, award-winning caliber stuff. You're doing it, you know, and that's more than you can say for a lot of people. It honestly is, because I've come across more than enough people that talk about doing, and never actually do anything.
Yeah.
So even if it sucks, at least you're doing it.
Just make something.
Yeah.
Just go out there and shoot it. Are any of those bombs available on YouTube I can go check out?
They're not, actually. I made sure they don't exist on YouTube.
I think I might have
good ones are out there.
I might have a DVD copy of one of your shorts. I don't know if you would consider it a bomb, but
you might possibly.
Yeah, I think
there's a few lingering out there in the.
I'm trying to
world.
think what I think I have a DVD copy of My Computer.
That is one of the bombs.
That's a bomb?
Oh yeah. There's like 2 people that think it's fantastic, which hats off to them. Thank you. Thank you if you're listening out there. I appreciate it. But that film's really funny because I did that one when I was 23. So I was fresh out of college. I had to move back home with my mom because I had no money.
Yep.
I had no hookups in the industry. I had nothing on my resume. It was a very depressing time, and I had to do something, right? I had to film something. I had
Right.
to make something. So that was like a really terrible script I wrote when I was in high school, and I kind of refined it a little bit, didn't improve it much. And I remember being in the shower the night before the first, or the morning before the first day of shooting, thinking to myself, I don't think this is going to be good.
Oh.
But I already had these friends of mine commit to it,
Right.
to shoot it that weekend. So I kind of didn't listen to my inner voice. And I went ahead and did it. And it was just kind of a sloppy mess, but another learning experience in the can.
I think it's great just because, yes, you did it, because it's out there. It's in the world.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I learned.
A big learning through those failures is having patience, like really like giving yourself a little grace, right?
And what kind of forced me into having patience was the 5 to 6 years I worked on Hear Me Now, as mentioned earlier, and just like the marathon that was. Because anybody knows who's worked on a film, especially somebody who's directing and also sometimes shooting, is that it's a slog sometimes. It takes a lot out of you. And if you're working on a film for multiple years, that'll teach you a lot of things about patience. Yeah. And so I learned a great deal about patience with Hear Me Now. And the first thing I shot post Hear Me Now was a book trailer for Random House author Brooks Benjamin, his book, My 7th Grade Life in Tights. I did a trailer for it and took my time with it, had a budget, allocated that budget properly, brought the right resources on board. That is why I have an Emmy nomination for directing now, is because of that advertisement.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah, and so it's kind of the whole payoff of patience really does benefit you. Not cutting corners, having the right resources in place, it benefits you a lot in this business.
Yeah. Do you have any personal projects you're currently working on, maybe like in pre-production?
Yeah, so I'm in pre-production right now on a short film called A Darkened Bliss, which, Corey, I do believe you are a part of the team.
I am, yes.
And that is something that's in pre-production right now. I'm going to launch a crowdfunding campaign for it a little later in the spring and raise some money to get it off the ground.
Nice. Can you tell us anything about the story at all, or is that super under wraps?
It's not too under wraps. It's a vampire film, to put it simply, and it's in Nashville, so it involves musicians in the music industry, a mesh of the Nashville experience with vampires.
Okay.
And funny story, it was pitched to a big studio out in Hollywood. The concept was, at least a couple of years ago, and got their interest. They didn't go for the script because I was still kind of in the early stages of writing it, but it was a fly by the seat of your pants kind of thing. But it was kind of cool to be like, okay, well, I got someone's attention out there, and I got a rejection, essentially, which is a rite of passage. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I celebrated that, honestly.
Yeah, that's great. Sounds super interesting. First of all, I can't wait to be a part of the crew in the production, but just the story in general is super intriguing. What I know of it, and have had the opportunity to give the script a read. So
yeah,
I think it should be super exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, before we wrap up today, I want to put you through the lightning round. Ooh. So I have a handful of questions that I feel like we've gotten to know you quite a bit over the last 35 minutes. But I think these will be great questions, good insight into Bill.
Yes.
So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What is your all-time favorite movie?
E.T.
E.T., okay. The last movie you watched?
The first Mission Impossible.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Your favorite director?
Steven Spielberg. And a side note, I took a lot of flack for that in college because obviously the household name everybody knows. I liked him when I was a little kid. Get off my back.
All the way off my back.
Don't at me about liking Steven Spielberg.
Nice. Okay. Most underrated or slept on cinematographer?
So that's going to be a toss-up between Dean Cundey and the late, great Alan Davio. who we lost in 2020. Both of those guys worked with Spielberg, did a lot of, shot a lot of the films that I grew up with in the 80s and the 90s. And they kind of go unnoticed because they're not household names like Roger Deakins and
Right.
People like that. Dean Cundey in particular did like Jurassic Park and Hook and all Who Framed Roger Rabbit, all these big classics that we know from Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis, and Alan Daviow, of course, shot E.T. I had an assignment in film school to contact him, which as a 19-year-old, pre-social media and all that stuff, I had no idea how to contact Alan Daviow, the cinematographer of E.T. And every day I would come to class, my instructor would be like, have you contacted Alan Daviow yet? And my answer was always no, because I have no idea how to get up with this guy. I'm a child. So I never did.
Nice. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Lately it's been tea.
Okay.
Never been a tea fan until recently. I've kind of gotten into it.
Okay. All right. Pineapple on your pizza?
I am very indifferent to that. I know a lot of people have strong opinions. I liken it to the way people feel about Nickelback. I'm very indifferent to Nickelback. I don't care either way. And it's the same way with pineapple on the pizza. If it's presented to me, I'll eat it. If it's not, I don't care, honestly.
You're not missing it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Your favorite camera?
For reasons of nostalgia and my history with the camera, I would say the Panasonic HPX 170 with Red Rock apparatus. If anyone remembers the Red Rock Micro M2 ground glass apparatus that was big in like pre-2010, somewhere around that era. I shot a lot of shoots that took my career to a higher trajectory were shot on that camera. And so Hear Me Now was shot on that camera. I just have a lot of like personal attachment because it served me well in my career.
Wait, do you still own that camera?
I do still own that camera. I can't get rid of it. I mean, I'll see it in my gear closet and I'll be like, you served me so well. I just think of all the shoots it was on, and just like.
Last but not least, 3 films everyone should see before they die.
I think I'm going to start in chronological order, starting with oldest.
Okay.
And it is very old. Faust by F.W. Murnau came out in 1926. It is a silent film. A lot of people know Murnau from Nosferatu, which is considered his seminal work.
Yep.
Faust, in my opinion, is a lot better, more innovative. Just the in-camera optics that were done in the 20s, mind-blowing. It's haunting. It's weird. It's actually fast-paced. It's paced like a modern film, so I highly recommend it. It's an eye-opener.
Okay.
Next on the list is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Great.
Steven Spielberg, 1977. First film I remember seeing where I was actually like enthralled with what I was seeing. And we're talking, I don't know how old I was, 3 or 4. My dad was watching it on HBO when there was just one HBO. And it was the big light show volley.
Oh, yeah.
At Devil's Tower, at the mountain. And just that, I was like, wow, movies are magical. I never thought of it that way till then. So I highly recommend that one. That is a Spielberg classic. That is a pre-E.T. It's a little slow for audiences these days, probably. It's the 70s, but highly recommend it.
Okay.
Next on the list, and finally, is The Secret of NIMH, 1982. An animated gem from my man Don Bluth. It was the first film he made independently after leaving Disney in protest. And it's about mice that live on a farm and have to be transported someplace else before the field is plowed. And so they enlist the help of genetically engineered rats to help them do that. And it is fantastic. And it is dark. Not just a kid's movie.
Okay. initially, when I hear that, I think definitely kids movie, but no.
No, it's that's the thing about Don Bluth. He's one of my favorites, and he has a tendency to make films that on the surface look very kid friendly, but he throws this like undercurrent of darkness in there and tragedy and peril. You're just like, okay, well, kids might not like this, but there's blood in Secret of Nim, and which I thought was just awesome when I was a kid. But highly recommend that one if you're looking for an animated treat.
That's cool.
One of the greatest American animators of the 20th century.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Bill, it's been so great talking to you today, getting to know a little more about you, sharing a little bit about you with the audience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks.
Love
so
doing
much.
it.
Yeah. I think this will be a great first episode. What do you think?
I think, yeah. As long as I didn't ramble too much.
I think you'll be fine.
Cool.
And if not, I'm sure we'll hear all about it.
Drop a line in the comments. Drop us a line. Email address.
Look, we talked about this. This is not a YouTube video.
That's true. It's not a YouTube video.
Yeah. We know you have a lot of podcast options, and we appreciate you choosing us. Tune in next time where we'll talk about the art of the side hustle and my introduction to filmmaking. Check us out at infocuspodcast.com. And if you like what you heard today, could you do us a favor and follow or rate our show wherever you consume your podcasts? It would help us out a ton.
Peace out, everybody.